Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jamuna Tira Vonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Stotara Satashi Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Stotara Satashi Srimad. Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giva Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shri Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gangamaya Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gangamaya Ki Jai, Shama Veda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Narayanam Naraskricham Naram Chaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nasta Preye Shivabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloker Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 23rd verse, is it? 6th text? Huh? 26:6? 23, okay. Three, 23, 6 text? That's it, okay. Kardama Uvacha Kardama Uvacha Kardama Uvacha Tushto Ham Adya Tava Manavi Manadayaha Shushu Saya Paramaya Paya Cha Bhaktya Yo Dehinam ayam ativa suhrit sa deho nava kshetiha samuchitaha kashputam kishapitum Mararte Tushto Hamadyatava Manavi Manadyaha Shushusaya Paramaya Paraya Chabakya Yodehina Maya Mativa Suritsayeho Navekshita Samuchita Shapitum Madarte Kardama Uvacha Tushtohamadya Tavamanavi Manadaya Shushusaya Paramaya Paraya Chabakya Yodehina Maya Mati Vasuhitsa Deho Navekshita Sumuchita Kshapitum Madharte Shushishtam Hadya Tavamanavi Manadaya Ladies, Tishtoham Adya Tvam Amanabhimanadaya Shushusaya Paramaya Paraya Tapaktya Yodehina Maya Tiva Suhitsa Deho Navekshita Samuchita Kshapim Kardama Uvacha. The great sage Kardama said, Tushta, pleased, Aham, I am, Adya, today, Tava, with you, Manavi, O daughter of Manu, Manadayaha, who are respectful, Shushushaya, by the service, Paramaya, most excellent, Paraya, highest, Cha, and Bhaktya, by the devotion, Yaha, that which, Dehinam, to the embodied, Ayam, this, Ativa, extremely, Suhrit, dear, Saha, that, Dehaha, body, Na, not, Avekshitaha, taken care of, Samuchitaha, properly, Shapitum, to expend, Mat arte, on my account. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is indicated here that one's body is very dear, yet Devahuti was so faithful to her husband that not only did she serve him with great devotion, service, and respect, but she did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devahuti had no sense pleasure, even with her husband. Otherwise, she would not have deteriorated in health. Acting to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, she continually assisted him, not caring for bodily comfort. It is the duty of a faithful and chaste wife to help her husband in every respect, especially when the husband is engaged in Krishna consciousness. In this case, the husband also amply rewarded the wife. This is not to be expected by a woman who is the wife of an ordinary person. The verse again, Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Om Agyanati Manandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksuun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Sajivam. So the first principle that Prabhupada taught us was that we're not the body. That was thought to be by the materialist as being a very good line, a very good thing to say. But very few people actually realize it. So in one sense, one should not care for the body. Prabhupada calls this selfless devotion in the purport. But in another place, when Prabhupada was lecturing on it's in Nectar of Devotion itself. Rupa Goswami quotes Jiva Goswami's in one of his Sandarbhas as saying that one should be not neglectful of ordinary things. So in a sense, one should be neglectful of all bodily demands, but in another sense, one should not be neglectful of them. Therefore, we see people with very strong constitutions living for a very long time because they're attentive to ordinary things. Ordinary things are like paying taxes, paying for a child's clothing, education, taking out automobile insurance, life insurance, housing insurance, and paying the rent, and so forth and so on. Those are ordinary things. So in one sense, they should not be neglected. And in one way of thinking, Raghunath Das, one of the Goswamis, was very perfect in this regard. He even convinced people who came to arrest his father and uncle not to do that, because he was so expert in ordinary dealings that he convinced the government that his father, although they had fled and uncle had fled, they should be excused, and they were. So in this sense, it is essential not to neglect ordinary things. Because if we get things wrong in the beginning, especially we know that if we get legal things wrong in the beginning, they can come back to haunt us big time in the future. So one should not be neglectful of ordinary things, but at the same time, one should be oblivious to the bodily demands. And this is necessary. Sometimes people die very young, like Janananda was 38 years old when he departed, and Shankaracharya was 35 or 36 when he departed. So sometimes people, because they neglect the bodily demands, ordinary things, they die early. And sometimes people die even when they're 3 or 4 years old. So in a sense, this is like reincarnation, or the science of transmigration of the soul, which most people don't ever believe, but they think it's a possibility, but they don't understand exactly how it works, or it works with karma. Karma is a very strange phenomenon, and no one knows what it is, or how it happens, or what causes it, or what doesn't cause it. But Krishna knows. He knows everything. He knows how many atoms are in the universe. He knows everything, but we know absolutely nothing as far as karma is concerned. We don't know what caused it. We say it's Krishna's arrangement. Some people call it destiny, some people call it fate, some people call it providence, and some people just call it, that's the way the cookie crumbles, or that's the nature of the universe. Things are not always going according to plan. One thing that Prabhupada said that about his early marriage was that his exact words in a lecture were, "I did not like my wife." And he thought that was a benefit because he could very easily leave her. And that is gone into in some great detail by Satsvarupa Maharaj's biography of Srila Prabhupada. But people, the statistics show us that second marriages are more successful than first marriages. I mean, those were statistics. It's not necessarily my opinion, but that's what statistics show. So in one sense, the so-called astrological compatibility is a little bit questionable, whereas the arranged marriages that take place where parents know the offspring, the son or daughter, early in life, they know them from the very start of their life up to the marriageable age, it's considered to be a more successful situation. And in some parts of the world, this union of man and woman called marriage is kind of institutional, at least in the older generation. Nowadays, things have changed a lot. But there's a little more wisdom involved in astrological compatibility. Astrological compatibility is not always accurate. And as I was saying before, there's a lot of charlatanism in astrology. People think I was born under a certain sign, therefore I'll have certain things that will develop. But I have found that people who profess astrological expertise are often wrong. They often predict things that don't happen, or they say things are going to happen that don't happen, and they say things that will happen, don't happen. So astrological compatibility is highly questionable, and like I say, there are many charlatans in this field. It's now not even called astrology, they call it something else. And with astronomy, it's not even called astronomy anymore. It's called astrological, physical, I think, what's it called? Physical, anyway, the idea of astronomy is also highly questionable. And Prabhupada himself found that the structure of the universe, according to what's written in the 5th canto, is not necessarily accurate. And up until 1967 or 76 or 77, he was intent upon finding someone who could explain the structure of the universe, because he knew certain things. He knew that for example, flying high, times change when you go to a higher level. Like in the heavenly planets, time is different. And when we're going from an airplane ride from, he mentioned this, from, for example, Paris to Los Angeles, it appears to take, if you're looking at your watch, 6 or 7 hours. But if you go by the clocks in the different places, it's only 3 or 4 hours. So the time does change according to the height that a person goes. So these are some of the things that seem to be contradictory, that there can be, care can be taken to ordinary things, and one should neglect these ordinary things in order to be completely successful. To a degree, it does depend on karma, or the constitution of one's body. One can undergo a lot of physical difficulty and still live to be 90 or 100 years old. It's possible. But in Kali Yuga, things don't usually happen like that. We have lost our ability to remember things. We've lost our ability to think things carefully. We've lost our ability to operate penances and live through them. It's not an easy yuga that we're living in. So things are very much reversed and difficult, as we find in our daily lives. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's also mentioned that one who is temperate in his dealings of working and recreation can conquer the yoga system. So I'm not just speculating that everyone should because Jiva Goswami said so in one of his writings that one should not neglect ordinary things. It's actually in the Bhagavad Gita that we have to look after ourselves. And we find that Prabhupada was very, very lovingly exchanging with people who neglected their bodily demands. One of his devotees was accused of treachery and arrested by the police in, I think it was in India, and dragged behind a car with a rope through the streets of the Mayapur area or Calcutta. So one has to look after things, and his devotees that were looking after him up until 1976 and 77 were very concerned about the medicine he was taking. They went all over the world to find Kavirajas who knew how to cure him, but nothing was helping. So even though one tries to be careful and not to neglect ordinary things, sometimes the workings of karma prove that they don't help. And Prabhupada has said that even people who go to the best of medical helpers sometimes die. And we have experience that this happens in even hospitals. Sometimes people are treated by the best of medical practitioners and they die. So karma is always acting, even though we don't know what causes it or where it's going to lead in the future, but it's always acting. And that can be said to be Krishna's arrangement, but that's a kind of way of saying we don't know, indirectly saying it's a higher purpose. But devotees know that by Krishna's arrangement, sometimes we live to be 2 or 3, sometimes we live to be 103. It's all due to the motions of karma. Sometimes they act in positive ways, sometimes they act in negative ways. So Kardama Muni is part of this selection of man and wife even he's even praising Devahuti for neglecting her own health. And Prabhupada once told about he appreciated very great devotion. Once he was talking with a person who said we can learn from everything in nature, animals, plants, birds. And he said that even we can learn from dogs, we can learn loyalty. Even while a master is pointing a loaded gun at a dog, the dog is faithful right up until the time the gun is fired. Another instance he told of was a man and wife who were operating a gurney, or I don't know what they call those things, a platform with wheels on it, and selling things. And the man had a very repulsive appearance. Maybe as he said, there was some accident or something, but nonetheless, the wife was serving him very faithfully. And even though it was something he observed and it wasn't happening in his own particular life, he admired the fact that one could be devoted, because physical attraction is, the statistics show that second marriages are more important because they're not so much based on the initial physical attraction, but rather on mental compatibility. So this is part of what is going on. I'm going to read the verse again. Kardama Muni said, "O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf." And we're kind of amazed that even up until his old age, or nearly, he was in his 70s or 80s, early 80s or 70s, he was talking about that we have to understand the principle of transmigration of the soul. Without understanding that law, and without understanding that there is such a thing, such a phenomena as karma, we're not living very well. And as Prabhupada mentions, not in this verse, but somewhere in the Bhagavatam, that we have to abide by the prayers that we sing every morning of Vishwavasa Chakravarti about Guruvastakam. And it's said there that without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. So in a sense, that is a difference between Krishna consciousness and many other faiths in the world. Many other faiths think that they can worship a non-living guru and get all sorts of benefit. There was one devotee who, an elderly man who was in his 50s or 60s who became a Christian, and his rationale was that I can, as a Christian, I can do whatever I want. I can commit sinful activities, and Christ is going to suffer for me. I mean, that was his idea of Christianity. And in that way, a lot of people who aspire to Christ are thinking in this way, that I can make a contract with Christ and he's going to suffer for all my sinful activities. But in Krishna consciousness, we have the concept of spiritual master being above reproach or beyond making very grievous mistakes. And therefore, we can follow such people because we know from their personal lives that they're worthy of respect, and they're not going to accept. Some of them, they will accept some of our sinful activities, but they're not going to accept all of them. And it's said in the list of offenses that the greatest offense of all offenses is to insult a devotee or one who is practicing Krishna consciousness. So I'll read the verse again, and then we can have questions. Kardama Muni said, "O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf." So any comments or questions on any of this? Yes?
It says in the verse that Devahuti neglected her body and Kadama was astonished. I remember hearing that in the very early days of 22nd Avenue, maybe you can comment on this, that very early Prabhupada put a list up on the wall, and the top of the list of things the devotees had to be careful of or take good care of, top of the list was health. So he was being practical.
Just that Prabhupada was cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't neglect our physical limitations. And of course, he seemed to have a very strong constitution because he lived up until 81 years old, and he was not hospitalized very often. But he also knew that we don't have, all of us don't have such a strong constitution. We do have to be careful about how we conduct ourselves, what we eat, what we do, how we move, how many hours at night we sleep, and so on and so forth. But when I said I was driving alone with Prabhupada, and I asked him about sleep, how much do you need? And I told him that I was only getting 3 or 4, and sometimes none at all. And he said, you should at least sleep 6 hours every night. So that was his way of saying that you do have to look after yourself to a degree. But there are people who can live on 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and they have a constitution that enables that to happen. And they can live up until over 100 years. So everybody is different. As Prabhupada said, one man's food is another man's poison. So we're all individuals, and we're all different. When I was in school, I was learning about leaf patterns, how there's no 2 leaves that have the same patterns. They're all slightly different from one another. Same with snowflakes. There are no 2 that are exactly identical. So in that sense, every individual human being is different from every other human being. Anything else? Okay, we'll stop there. Hare Krishna.